Hi, everyone. My name is Sarah Temple. I am the Operating Dean of Pathway Learning at Vista Ridge High School in Colorado Springs. And I wanted to walk you through some of what we're doing on our campus to ensure that all of our students are taking advantage of the career exploration pathway coursework, as well as a little bit of information about U Science, which is one of the cool things that we're using so students can identify their aptitudes and see how those aptitudes and skill sets translates to the world of work. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mirror my computer screen with you so that you have an opportunity to take a look at some of the things our students are introduced to. So you're going to get a view very briefly of the Twilight Zone. It's going to take you into so many different aspects of my screen. And this is one of the first things that our students encounter in freshman level pathways, which is pathway exploration. After the freshman level course, our students move into pathway design, which is sophomore level. Our juniors take on pathway mastery 1, and our seniors take on pathway mastery 2. Everybody's got to start somewhere though, and so all of our students started on a level playing field this school year with pathway exploration, as it wasn't a course that we had on our campus prior to the 2017-18 school year. Prior to this, our students participated in an advisory course. And in that course, they were in charge strictly of study hall materials. They were able to complete classwork, homework, any makeup work, any tests that they needed to retake, any quizzes that needed to be finished. They did it during that period. You can imagine that with some of our upperclassmen who are very used to having very little to do in the advisory class period, the transition into pathways was not exactly a smooth one. But over the course of this school year, I think our students are very much starting to appreciate the fact that they have the opportunity to talk about what it is they want outside of school and to see the correlation of the coursework that they complete on our campus and how that translates into the world of work. So we start the year off by welcoming our students into their pathway classes. The teachers are in charge of running a bunch of icebreakers and getting to know you activities. And then they challenge the students to think about the quote from Yeats, "Education is not the filling of a pail, but the lighting of a fire." We ask students what it means to them. They discuss this, and then we have the students consider whether or not the current courses that they're enrolled in really fuel that fire in them. Do they stimulate that passion and that creativity for whatever it is the student wants outside of our school and whatever it is they want out of their future? Our guess most often is that their classes don't particularly inspire them, that students aren't ever really asked what they're passionate about by their teachers. They're not given the opportunity to see the alignment with what they're doing in math and how that might translate into a career, what they're doing in English and how that might help them in the future, when both are really all about interpretation of symbols and creative problem solving. And so we try to give our students the opportunity to see those connections on our campus. The fact of the matter is that every student has a future. One of our questions that we get most often about the pathway classes is, why are we doing this? And previous to this school year, we had only been talking to our college-going population about the importance of school after high school. And when you do that, you close off the conversation to all of those students who might be thinking about taking a gap year or going straight into the workforce or looking at certification programs or looking at the military or maybe going on a mission. When we start to talk about careers, we open up that conversation to everyone, and now everyone can pull up a chair at the table and participate actively in the conversation, because every single student has a future, and we want to recognize that and we want to honor that, and the routes to those futures are not always linear. This is where Pathways comes in. The Pathway class is really designed for a student to get to know himself and get to know his peers. Students participate in a series of aptitude tests and interest surveys. They get to talk about career opportunities. We provide students the opportunities to go to different businesses locally on field trips. They also have job opportunities. We've got job shadows, we've got internships, we do work placement opportunities as well. Some of the internships that we do provide are either paid or at the end of this student's term, they might earn a scholarship. A couple of the internships that we have set up as well hire students right out of high school to work right in the career field, which is very, very cool. We want our Pathway classes to help foster digital citizenship in our students. They do create a digital portfolio in which they present and house all of their ICAP work. ICAP stands for Individualized Career and Academic Planning. And so everything that students do that really helps them to set goals, to meet those goals, and to align those goals with the career world, all of that gets housed into their digital portfolio. We also want students to know that what they do on social media is looked at by potential employers and by colleges and by adults who really want to see the student's character reflected in that. And so oftentimes we will encourage our students to link their social media accounts to their digital portfolios. In the Pathways class as well, our students have the ability to compare and contrast different programs for career, college, certification, gap year, employment, military, et cetera, et cetera. We want to teach our students financial literacy as well, and we want them to really consider the impact of their choices for after high school, for after graduation, and how not only the student will be financially impacted, but how his family might be impacted as well. And then we want to work on some success skills with our students. We used to call this soft skill development. In our school, we have changed the language a bit, and now we call it employability skill development. That way students understand that the skills they need regarding time management and communication, we try to make sure that those translate into the world of work. So, this does count for a grade. We have petitioned our school board and have been granted the ability to award 0.25 credit per year for our students' participation. The reason that we can only award 0.25 credit instead of a half credit or a full credit is because of seat time. Our students attend their Pathway class only once a week on Tuesdays from 7:30 in the morning to 9 in the morning. So they have an opportunity, if they're freshmen and have completed 4 years of Pathway work, to earn a full elective credit by the end of their high school career. For our other students or new students coming in, it'll just be 0.25 per school year. The class itself is pass-fail, and students have to pass the class with 75% or better. And the reason that we have put such a rigorous stipulation on that percentage is because we want students to recognize the importance of the work that they do in their Pathways class. So all of this work is coming from state legislation. Not only has ICAP become mandatory for our students, not just for the class of 2021 and beyond. The graduation guidelines certainly have changed for our incoming freshmen this year and every class subsequent. But ICAP legislation really started to become very flourished and kind of fleshed out from 2008 to very recently. And we wanted to make sure that our students weren't being put at any kind of detriment because they had not yet talked about career opportunities. We've been talking a lot as a state about college. But again, when you do that, you leave out a certain part of your population. So again, we're trying to make sure that everyone is an active participant, and we want students to take ownership for the work that they do. And if we can show them that the work that they do on our campus matters as far as their post-secondary goals, they become more invested. So we are able to capture their career and academic planning through the Pathways course and through their digital portfolios. Part of what ICAP development looks like for us specifically comes from the quality indicators set forth by the Colorado Department of Education. And these 10 things that you'll see on your screen are those quality indicators. They have been consolidated very recently, so now I think there's maybe 6 of them. But when this particular presentation put together, we had 10. So one of them is making sure that students complete career and college surveys, that they have a written post-secondary workforce goal. We do that in the form of SMART goals that students participate in creating, in setting small milestones, in achieving, and then revising. And we make sure that our students understand their assessment scores, how to improve upon those, and know where to find those, not only in College Board, but to record those into their digital portfolios as well. We want our students to have experiences in service learning, in volunteering experience, and or work environments. And so oftentimes we'll organize volunteering fairs, we'll bring in local organizations to come in and talk to students, to recruit volunteers for summer programs, spring break programs, etc. And we also want to make sure that our students understand the impact of their participation in those experiences. So when they're finished with those, we oftentimes ask them to reflect either in written format or in video format so that they can upload those to their portfolios as well. We want our students to establish connections, meaningful connections between the school-based learning that's happening as well as the world of work. So any of these indicators that they have examples of from any of their core classes or their elective classes, they can then upload those pieces of work into their digital portfolio, write reflections on those, and we can say yep or no that that quality indicator has or has not been met. We want our students to have an intentional sequence of coursework. We call this the 4-year plan of study, or POS for short, which always makes parents and students giggle. But we want to show students how that coursework will align with the students' post-secondary goals. We like to have parents as active participants in this process as well, because oftentimes by the time a student gets to high school, the parents are essentially benched. They don't get to participate that much in the coaching or in the game at all. And when parents come in, they are able to bring in insights into their children's ways of thinking, into the ways that their children operate. Oftentimes the kids are a lot harder on themselves than they need to be, and parents can say, well, no, I think you're being too hard on yourself. This is what I see at home. And having that input is invaluable for us. So we want to make parents a part of that plan of study as well. Our students need to know how to access as well as read and interpret their transcripts, and then be able to articulate the work that they've done and the work that they like to continue to do. Our students need to have at least one college or work application on file with us by the time that they leave. We want to make sure that they have a resume. They start writing those in freshman year, and every year with all of the new experiences that students have, we do revise those and we show students that revision is important. And finally, we want our students, again, to graduate with an understanding of the financial impact of life after high school, not only what that means for the student, but what it means for his family as well. So before students freak out, we ask them to consider needs. What we're really doing is providing students an opportunity to explore careers on our campus when before they might have only been considering future and career work and how they were going to get there at home with their parents. Sometimes parents aren't involved. Sometimes they might talk to a counselor or a teacher in isolation. But because of the culture shift on our campus, all of our teachers are involved, all of our counselors are involved, all of our Success Center staff and administrators are involved. We've got community members, we've got stakeholders, we've got district officials coming in and talking to the students meaningfully about the careers that they want. This is nothing new. We're just giving students an opportunity at this point to really be vocal about it. In addition, this shift has also provided teachers a way of connecting their content material to the world of work, and teachers have not yet had that opportunity as well. So our Pathways class is a means for students to explore what they want and then to go out and do it with this safety net of high school and the open arms of all of the student mentors that we have on campus, as well as the adult mentors that we have on campus. We want for our students to participate in job opportunities and internships and shadows and everything like that here. That way, by the time they graduate, they know exactly what they want and what they don't want out of a potential career. So any student that comes through Vista says, oh, well, I wish I would have done this, they're remiss in the fact that they could have taken advantage of any and all of the opportunities that we offer. All they have to do is advocate for themselves. Again, part of the reason that we're doing this is because student graduation requirements are changing. As I told you before, the graduation guidelines for our freshman class, our current freshman class of 2021, and every incoming freshman class afterwards, indicate that students can't just go through 4 years of high school anymore and then graduate with a diploma. They have to go through 4 years and be able to demonstrate mastery in each of the curricular areas before they can move on past go and collect their $200 and their high school diploma from us. What that means is a lot of people hear mastery and say, oh, well, how is my 15-year-old enrolled in an AP class? They're going to get a 3 on the test and they're going to be masters of that curriculum. That's not at all what we're saying. With that, what we're asking students to do, and really this should be the general practice anyway by the time a student has a diploma, is we're asking them to demonstrate college readiness. That's what mastery on our campus means. So please don't get it twisted. Don't get hung up in the language or the semantics. When a student has mastered the material, all they're doing is demonstrating that they're ready for the next level, whether that be college, a certification program, military, whatever it looks like, they're ready for it. And part of our goal is to make sure that they're prepared, not only for the rigorous curriculum that is to follow, but they understand time management, they understand note-taking, they understand what those things look like and how to operate within that system. So U-Science is one of the amazing tools that we use to help a student not only explore his or her strengths, but to see how careers are tied to those strengths. So a student is run through a series of brain games, and they have an opportunity to do it all at once if they want. If they do that, it takes about 2 hours. If not, each of the games they play takes about 8 minutes. They can log out, come back to it at some point in time. When I log in, I see this wonderful screen here, and I'm able to manage all of my student groups, any of my adult groups. We have staff members, we have community stakeholders, we have our middle school staff tied into this, and all of our various classes. When a student gets his or her own results, it takes 24 hours after all of the games are finished, but they get results that look like this. So I just clicked on my aptitudes tag, and this will tell me all of the things that I am amazing at. This is my personal profile, so please don't laugh. You'll see all of the things that show up in green are things that I excel at. The things that show up in blue are things that I'm good at but could use a little bit of help in. And then you'll notice my amplifiers. Most of these are math-based. These are things that I could certainly improve upon. What our teachers and students really appreciate about this particular program is that everything is written in positive language. So even though I know my pattern memory, I am definitely a note taker. I will forget anything you tell me unless I write it down. Even though that happens, it still says you're fine without the design. You know, you're a note taker. Students can click on this information then for every single aptitude they were tested on. This tells you what your results show for you personally, how it impacts you at work, at school, and socially. Students find things easy for them and difficult for them, and that's reflected in this section. And then it comes up with a tips for success section. What we like to ask our students to do is to consider these things, especially in a skill area where they may feel deficient, and they can pick any one of these things and create a SMART goal around it, and then create small milestones that they can meet to attain that goal. And we show students how setting those small milestones is far more manageable than setting one giant goal and never being able to get there. What we like about this as well is that you can look for pattern memory in other people in your classes. So as a teacher, if I'm grouping, I might have my note takers work with my human cameras because I know that human cameras search for visual patterns in fabrics, maps, nature. They're drawn to the patterns and I can use those intricacies in those patterns for specific assignments. And so maybe my note takers might learn a thing or two from my human cameras. So I might use this to group my students. I might use it to have students meet other people. I might put them into small project groups where every single group has to have one of these three things. There are lots of different things that you can do with this. And as far as students really learning how to work with one another, these aptitudes make us so diverse that it would take a lot for me as a note taker to try and understand someone who just saw patterns immediately and then was able to follow those. And so I would really definitely learn a lot from working with a person in that particular area. But again, you can go back and explore all of your aptitudes in that same regard. What I like about UScience as well is that you are able to download this particular report. Our students all have Google accounts on our campus, and so after they've downloaded that, they can save this to Google and then upload their results directly into their digital portfolios, which are housed in Google Sites. After that, students are able to write reflections as to whether or not they feel like the information is pertinent and accurate, and if not, they're able to articulate why. In addition to the aptitudes and amplifiers section that you're seeing on my screen now, you can come back up to this menu and click on careers. And what this will do is it will bring up all of the careers that I am very well suited for based upon my aptitudes as well as my interests. You see this bar here on the screen that I just hovered over with my cursor. What I can do is I can break this down in a conversation with this student about how much educational investment they'd like to make outside of high school. So when you've graduated, do you want to be in school for 5 or more years? 4 years at least? You want to get your full-on bachelor's? Are you thinking about an associate's or certification? And we can click on any of these things and it will refine the student's results based on the amount of educational investment that they like. We can also refine the results by overall fit, which is a combination of student aptitudes and interests. We can click solely on aptitude fit, where we're only talking about the skill sets that the student has, or we can click only on interest fit and talk about student interests and where they might go from there. I can tell you, because I've looked at my results a lot, that secondary school teacher comes up in all 3 categories: overall, aptitude, and interest fit. So what I'll do is I'll click on that and I can show you a little bit about the information that UScience provides. UScience allows you to see just kind of a snapshot of the job projection as well as average salary range for a person in that particular field of work. It gives you a summary of what a day in the life of a person in that career field might look like, as well as core tasks performed by a person in that job. Then it gives you this fun little graphic about how well the career fits you. The aptitudes of the student reflected are there in orange, and the aptitudes required for that particular career field are there in white. Then it does the same thing for your career interests. Then if all of this information leading up to the middle of this page doesn't sound like you, you can click on these, any of these particular careers as well, and you can navigate over if you want to see other careers that are related to teaching that maybe you hadn't considered. Or if you don't want to be a secondary school teacher, maybe you might think about middle school special education. And all of that is really helpful for students to know, because if you think about what students know, they know what they're exposed to, they know what their parents do, they know what their teachers do, and what their friends' parents do. And that's pretty much it. And so, for example, if we had a student come in and talk to us about engineering, and I've had this happen, you say, well, what kind of engineering do you want? And a student can't articulate what it is they want because they thought engineering was just one thing. And so we are able to use UScience as a springboard then to have really in-depth conversations with students and be able to help them explore where they didn't know they had the opportunity before. So we're going to continue scrolling and you'll see educational investment. If I wanted to teach, you'll notice 89% of people in this career field have at least a bachelor's degree. 10% have gone on to get their master's degree. In this section, you'll get an educational summary, any on-the-job training, licensing, certification, etc. Then it tells you the best career majors or programs that you might look into if this sounds like your jam. You can click on these and explore. The biggest complaint that we've had about this section is if you clicked on this to explore, it doesn't take you to college websites that provide these career majors or programs. But that's where our counseling staff, our staff mentors, our teacher mentors, our Success Center staff all come in, and we're able to have those in-depth conversations with our students. Then you scroll down further and you see this fun color-coded map of the United States. Underneath that map, you'll get a national salary guide and projected job openings. This is for all of the United States. In the next 10 years for this occupation alone, we're looking at 284,000 job openings, which sounds like a lot, but over 10 years really is not that much. It's only a growth rate of 5.8%. This is where we can talk to students about fiscal responsibility. We see the average is 60,000 here, but we see some of these darker blues on our map, and some of these are places where there will be high demand for people in this career field. And maybe as a student from Colorado, Chicago sounds cool, or maybe I want to go to Quad Cities or something in Illinois. So I'm going to click on Illinois. I'm going to see that their projected openings are only 11,000 in the next 10 years, which is a negative growth rate. But I will also see that their average after 5 to 10 years in the business is slightly more than the national average. This is where teachers come in and counselors come in and talk to students about the cost of living, whether or not a student wants to work in a rural district or in an urban setting. We talk about transportation costs, how much would it cost for you to uproot your family, or how much would it cost for you to move by yourself? Are you getting a house? Are you going to rent? Are you going to own? Do you have to take a car? How much is gas compared to Colorado? And this really is a skill that students should be learning before they leave high school, but not a lot of them have the opportunity because there's so many other things that they have to do in their core curricular areas. As we continue to scroll down, you can see jobs in this career. So if as a secondary school teacher, I decided that that wasn't my thing after 5 to 10 years in the business, these are other things that I could potentially explore as other job opportunities if I had the educational background that's recommended for this particular career field. So I could then save this career, I could compare it to other careers, I could think about how I would write my resume, whatever that looks like. I have that opportunity. The only thing through UScience that students cannot download and then upload to their digital portfolio is this career section. And that's because you'll notice right here where my cursor is, all of this information is regularly updated by ONET. The students never have to go back into UScience and update their aptitudes. They never have to go back in and play those brain games. And if you want information on that, please contact UScience. Aptitudes don't change. They do have the opportunity, however, to go back in and update their interests. And with ONET updating the career section as often as they do, and with student interest changing, it just doesn't make sense for a student to download this guide as a snapshot in time when students are always evolving and the careers are always evolving. So we have access to all of this information, and I certainly can go in and look and help students identify change where change occurs. The third page that students have access to is the Describing You page through UScience, where they have an opportunity to see some key terms and phrases that describe how they operate. And we use this for resume development. Students, again, can download this guide. They can print it out. They could give it to a teacher or to a counselor to help that teacher or counselor write a letter of recommendation if one were requested. We also use this information for students to be able able to practice interviewing skills in their Pathways classes. So if I were a teacher in a Pathway class doing a mock interview, I might tell a student originally, okay, tell me about your work approach. And a student could say, well, I'm a hard worker, I believe in being on time, and I think having a good relationship with other employees is really important. So that sounds good for a student, and I would take note if I were an employer of some of the key things that students talked about. Being on time is certainly one of those. Working well with others is also another one of those things. But as we practice these in our Pathway classes, students learn that language and the way that they articulate themselves, the way they present themselves, the words that they use are very, very important. And we want our students to set themselves apart. And so we would say then, okay, open up your You Science Describing You page. Now tell me about your work approach. And a student can practice reading these phrases out loud. When I'm interested in something, I want to learn everything about it from the best resources and experts, not experts. But a student can look at this, and the more that they practice these phrases and the terms that describe who they are, the better off we think they'll be in an interview setting and being able to really use these things to their advantage and set themselves apart from other candidates. So that's our Youth Science program. We also give staff access to this Pathway Exploration folder, and in it you'll notice there are a bunch of subfolders with dates on them. What we do is we build a program for our teachers to be able to go in and access lessons for any given date so that they know exactly what needs to happen. Part of my job is making sure that staff is adequately trained to implement the lessons in their classrooms. And first semester, everybody was on a level playing field. So you'll notice as we go into the lessons, if I were to show you one, there's nothing color-coded, but all of the information that students need and that staff would need for that particular day are in the folder. And then there's a Read Me First document where we open up with announcements, and then we've got what each grade level is doing for that particular class period. In second semester, we were asked to differentiate for the different grade levels, simply because some of the seniors found the freshman level work pedantic and kind of beneath them. And so when we're talking about ethics in the workplace and the difference between criticism and praise and feedback, seniors were hungry for a bit more. So I can show you an example again of what a lesson might look like. We have advertisements in some of our folders. The Student Council makes commercials sometimes for their assemblies, and we're able to show those. Any kind of pertinent information that students or staff might need is housed there. And again, we have the README documents with all of the announcements for students that pertain to student success. In our second semester, we also started every class period with a meaningful career conversation starter, where students have the opportunity to break the ice and to learn about one another further in answering a career-centered question. And then we have things broken out again by grade level. Our seniors are currently working on a research project where they are researching either a college program or a career program that they'd like to go into. And again, we're talking about all of those quality indicators. So the financial implications of moving into that college or career program, what work is required of this student, what kind of educational investment is there for the career programs. Are you trained on the spot, or do you have to attend any classes? For the college programs, do you have to live on campus? How many credit hours are you required to take as a freshman on that campus? If you have taken concurrent enrollment classes, do any of those classes transfer with you? Just things like that. Our juniors are working on ethics in the workplace currently and practice mock interviews during their class periods. Our sophomores are in the process of finishing up critical thinking and problem solving projects. And our freshmen are building their digital portfolios right now. So all of that is really, really exciting. If you have any questions about any of the things that I have talked about today, or if you'd like more information, or you're really, really interested in visiting our campus, please get a hold of me. My name is Sarah Temple. It's STEMPLE at D49.org. I would be happy to walk you around campus. I'd be happy to talk to you, share any information that I was able to on our Pathways program. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I hope you have a great day.